Well, hey everyone, it's MicroCuts327, and it is pretty much the end of the semester. It's, Wednesday, and I have classes until Monday, 21st, so, finally I'll be able to get back to my regular routine. But, in my downtime last night while I was studying for my art history final, oh dear, won't get into that, I opened up Steam, and I saw an ad for peculiar looking game called Dear Esther. And the screenshot that was advertising it immediately caught my attention. So I decided to. It was $5, and it should still be $5 right now. I don't know how long it's lasting. So go check if you want to get the game. But I got it, obviously, and here it is. So I'm going to be doing a playthrough of it. However, I have seen one video on it on YouTube, so I'm actually not going to do any live commentary because it would totally defeat the purpose and ruin the atmosphere of this game. So, disclaimer right now, if you're thinking of getting this game and are unsure about it, you know, maybe watch the first 5-10 minutes maybe. I'm sure that would be enough to, you know, tell you if you want to know to get the game or not. But do not watch past that because this game is basically a one-time playthrough from what I've heard. So please heed that. I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but at the same time I want to share this for everyone who may not even be interested, who can't run the game, you know, whatever. So remember, if you want to get the game, watch maybe the first 5 minutes, but then go ahead and get it. Don't watch the rest. So for everyone else who wants to watch my playthrough, enjoy. So from here on out, up until after the end, I'll be quiet for the whole time. I'm not going to speak. This is the last that you'll hear of my pretty voice, if you want to say. I don't know. So this is the last you'll hear of me, and I'll be back once I've completed it. So see you guys soon. Oh, and one other disclaimer, there is absolutely no action in this game, quote-unquote game, so don't expect any. Alright guys, enjoy.
Dear Esther, I sometimes feel as if I've given birth to this island. Somewhere between the longitude and latitude, a split opened up, and it beached remotely here. No matter how hard I correlate, it remains a singularity, an alpha point in my life that refuses all hypothesis. I return each time leaving fresh markers that I hope, in the full glare of my hopelessness, will have blossomed into fresh insight in the interim. When you were born, your mother told me, a hush fell over the delivery room. A great red birthmark covered the left side of your face. No one knew what to say, so you cried to fill the vacuum. I always admired you for that you cried to fill whatever vacuum you found. I began to manufacture vacuums just to enable you to deploy your talent. The birthmark faded by the time you were 6 and had gone completely by the time we met, but your fascination with the empty and its cure remained. Dear Esther, I found myself to be as featureless as this ocean, as shallow and unoccupied as this bay, a listless wreck without identification. My rocks are these bones, and a careful fence to keep the precipice at bay. Shot through me caves, my forehead a mount. This aerial will transmit into me so. All overexposed, the nervous system, where Donnelly's boots and yours and mine still trample. I will carry a torch for you. I will leave it at the foot of my headstone. You will need it for the tunnels that carry me under. Donnelly reported the legend of the hermit, a holy man who sought solitude in its most pure form. Allegedly, he rode here from the mainland in a boat without a bottom, so all the creatures of the sea could rise at night to converse with him. How disappointed he must have been with their chatter. Perhaps now, when all that haunts the ocean is the rubbish dumped from the tankers, he'd find more peace. They say he threw his arms wide in a valley on the south side, and the cliff opened up to provide him shelter. They say he died of fever 116 years later. The shepherds left gifts for him at the mouth of the cave, but Donnelly records they never claimed to have seen him. I have visited the cave and I have left my gifts, but like them, I appear to be an unworthy subject of his solitude.
A wonderful sight. The moon cresting the junction between the cliff path and the stone circle. It cast a shadow of the ridge across the beach, all the world as if you had signed your name in untidy handwriting.
When someone had died or was dying, or was so ill they gave up what little hope they could sacrifice, they cut parallel lines into the cliff, exposing the white chalk beneath. You could see them from the mainland or the fishing boat, and know to send aid or impose a cordon of protection, and wait a generation until whatever pestilence stalked the cliff paths died along with its hosts. My lines are just for this: to keep any would-be rescuers at bay. The infection is not simply of the flesh. I quote directly: a motley lot with little to recommend them. I have now spent 3 days in their company. That is, I fear, enough for any man not born amongst them. Despite their tedious inclination to quote scripture, they seem to me the most God-forsaken of all the inhabitants of the Outer Isles. Indeed, in this case, the very gravity of that term, forsaken by God, seems to find its very apex. It appears to me that Donnelly, too, found those who wander this shoreline to be adrift from any chance of redemption. Did he include himself in that, I wonder? Dear Esther, I met Paul. I made my own little pilgrimage. My Damascus, a small semi-detached on the outskirts of Wolverhampton. We drank coffee in his kitchen and tried to connect to one another. Although he knew I hadn't come in search of an apology, reason or retribution, he still spiraled in panic, thrown high and lucid by his own dented bonnet. Responsibility had made him old. Like us, he'd already passed beyond any conceivable boundary of life. I would leave you presents outside your retreat, in this interim space between cliff and beach. I would leave you loaves and fishes, but the fish stocks have been depleted and I've run out of bread. I would row you back to your homeland in a bottomless boat, but I fear we would both be driven mad by the chatter of the sea creatures. The vegetation here has fossilized from the roots up. To think they once grazed animals here, the remnants of occupation being evidence to that. It is all sick to death. The water is too polluted for the fish, the sky is too thin for the birds, and the soil is cut with the bones of hermits and shepherds. I've heard it said that human ashes make great fertilizer, that we could sow a forest from all that is left of your hips and ribcage, with enough left over to thicken the air and repopulate the bay.